One California city is aiming to be carbon neutral by 2030, and it's taking some big steps to get there. We're talking about Petaluma, California. They finalized an amendment that bans all new gas station construction. Joining me to discuss this is D'Lynda Fischer, council member in the city of Petaluma. D'Lynda, welcome to the show. I love this subject. Thank you for joining us. How did you come to the conclusion that in order to reach that carbon neutral goal by 2030, gas stations needed to be banned, or at least the newer ones?
Well, that was part of the reason that we did it, and also that we didn't want to have any more new gas stations. We have the existing infrastructure. We have 16 stations in our city. It's plenty for everybody to be able to fuel their vehicles, and we really want to move away from fossil fuels. And so we not only ban new gas stations, but we also prohibit old gas stations from redeveloping, essentially. And so if they're going to do anything, we want them to put in EV chargers and perhaps hydrogen as well.
Researching your town of Petaluma, you guys have 16 existing gas stations. So this law also includes, like you mentioned, ways to make it easier for them to cater EVs. How would that work?
Well, that they would move from their existing infrastructure and put in EV chargers, specifically fast chargers for people that are, we're a big tourist town. And so for people who are here and don't have their infrastructure at home, that it would allow them to be able to essentially the alternative fuel for their vehicle, which is electric.
How has this law been received by your constituents, D'Lynda? I'm so interested to know that.
Most of our constituents really are concerned about the climate, and they want us to reach that 2030 goal of carbon neutrality. We had a few letters that came in of those deniers. I don't know if they're actually local. And then, there are others that believe that, it's in God's hands. But for the most part, I think people are really supportive.
We were talking about your aim to become carbon neutral by 2030. While that seems far off, it really isn't, as you well know. So what other steps are you taking to achieve this?
Well, we declared a climate emergency 2 years ago and formed a climate commission. And that commission actually wrote a climate framework plan with members of the community. So it was a really community-driven effort. And that plan was adopted by our city council at the beginning of this year in January. We're seated in a new city council. And so with that adoption, we're now using that as a framework to update our general plan. And as you know, a general plan for a city is really its guiding document and how it's going to be developed and what policies are going to be put in place. So this plan becomes a framework for our general plan, which we'll be updating over the next 2 years and develop a climate action plan in conjunction with that.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm so sorry. I asked you what the reaction from your constituents was. I also want to ask what gas companies and gas station owners, how are they responding to this?
Yeah, I have not heard from them at all. And most of our gas stations are owned, have the same owners for years. And what we're really trying to prohibit is the impetus for this was that there was a major grocery chain that wanted to put a gas station, a 16-pump gas station, on the lot that their store is on in a big shopping center. And so what's happening in Northern California is that these mega centers are coming in to offer cheap gas to their customers in order for them to encourage them to shop in their stores. And so what we're really trying to do is avoid that and keep our small mom and pop stations in business.
California Governor Gavin Newsom announced recently back in September that the state would be banning the sales of gas and diesel vehicles by 2035. I have to ask, D'Lynda, do you think that timeline is realistic, considering that you are the only city so far moving to make a ban like this?
Well, I think that while we're the first and we didn't know we were the first in the nation, I think that this is going to start rippling, and it already has. Santa Rosa is now looking at it, which is the biggest city in Sonoma County, just to the north of us. And so I think that is a realistic timeline. I was talking with a owner of auto center here, and he's saying that he thinks in the next 5 years that most of the vehicles sold in our city will be electric.
Well, someone that owns an EV, I know how grateful this is. And when I first got the EV, I think for most owners, their biggest concern is where will I be able not to fuel up, but get enough in my car to make the destination that I'm going to. And it's much easier than you think because these, like you said, these charging stations are popping up everywhere. So I love that you guys are doing this. Thank you so much for your time. D'Lynda Fischer, council member in the city of Petaluma, California. We really appreciate your time.